Right. Well, before we start this session, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, the people of the Kulin Nations on whose land Monash University operates, as well as paying our respects to their elders, past, present, and future. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for what will be the final of the Choose Your Own Adventure series, the 5-part series on employability. It's been a very informative and helpful series of sessions, and I wish to thank our panelists who are joining us today, as well as the ones who have joined us for our previous 4 sessions. Please note we have the recordings from our previous sessions online, the Faculty of IT events page. You'll need to click on the past events filter. We're very excited to have this week's panelists join us. We have Fatima from Woolworths Group. We have TJ from IBM, and we have Shauna from Deloitte. Unfortunately, Joey from Transurban had another commitment and is unable to attend. By way of a brief introduction, we have Fatima, who is an experienced talent acquisition partner with a history of working within the supply chain industry. Skilled in HR and recruitment, Fatima is currently a strategic sourcing specialist with the Woolworths Group, having also had previous employment with Hayes and Toll. We're also joined by Taijan, or TJ, who has helped numerous graduates enter the workforce in her 7 years at IBM. Some of you may recognize TJ as previously assisting the faculty with its collective video session from last year. TJ remains focused on finding the right candidates for roles in AI, research, security, and data transformation, as well as helping to upskill employees along the way. And we finally have Shauna Zhao, an analyst at Deloitte Data and AI Consulting, and also a teaching associate here at Monash University. Shauna had completed a Bachelor of Biomedicine and began a PhD in biomedicine when she realized that wasn't the direction she wanted to pursue. Having always had a keen interest in technology, Shauna pursued and eventually completed the Masters of Data Science here at Monash. Shauna was not your everyday student. In fact, she achieved the highest academic record within the faculty. Shauna is always willing to assist students with their questions, so we thank her for joining us today. Thank you, Shauna. So I'll kickstart our Q&A. I'll start with you, Fatima. Very quickly, can you please give me a brief background on your professional career?
Perfect, thanks, will do. KJ, everyone can hear me all right? I feel like, yeah, I'm good. Excellent. First off, I just want to thank you for having me in today's session. I'm really excited to give further insights about myself and hopefully provide some great advice to the students as well. But yeah, just to kind of go off what you mentioned, KJ, is I've worked in recruitment for about 7 years now. And have supported various industries such as accounting and finance, logistics, supply chain, and now retail. I started my career at Hayes Recruitment Agency and then moved over to Toll Logistics. And have now been at Woolworths for nearly 3 years and currently a strategic sourcing partner. So I work on specific projects that come up, such as a recent project that I worked on was a new distribution centre opened up in Brisbane and Heathwood, and I was a project lead for that and recruiting all the salaried roles. And I'm also the project lead for the grad recruitment program for Woolworths as well.
So what is the hiring process for Woolworths Group? Where can IT students fit into your organisation?
Yep, so the hiring process at Woolworths is quite standard to most organisations, but depending on the role, the process might differ. So for example, with our grad recruitment, we advertise our roles for about 4 weeks, and then we go through all the applications and mark them against the criteria that we're looking for. And then successful candidates will actually go through psychometric testing, where we assess their cognitive, emotive abilities, as well as the work values alignment. And then the next stage is an online video interview. And for our IT grads, we actually do an assessment center as well, because we look for about 5 IT grads. And then after the assessment center, if you're successful, then there's the final interview and then an offer. So that's the process. In regards to kind of where IT students actually fit into the organization, we currently do have a long-standing relationship with UTS, and we sponsor their BIT and WIEIT cooperative scholarship programs. So at any given time, we have two or three interns placed with us in Sydney. Of course, obviously, you've heard of our grad program, so that also operates from Sydney. And for our other states, interested parties can request opportunities for work experience or internships, but each application will be considered on its merit and dependent on the business circumstance at the time.
So is your home office based in Sydney?
Yeah, that's right.
Fair, fair.
Actually, this is our office at the moment. Actually, the background is our
right.
office. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Good to know. Well, hopefully someone in here may get the chance to work in that building at one point.
That's it.
So what would you identify as core competencies that will assist students in their careers?
Yeah, so I believe some core competencies that will assist students in their careers is definitely communication, but communication, not just, I guess, speaking and writing, also listening. Active listening is very important. So, as I guess employers, we want to see that you can articulate your thoughts and your ideas very clearly and effectively. Being a good listener means you're able to strive to understand others' emotions, build strong relationships, and also resolve conflicts. Another one is problem solving. So, challenges will always arise in every job that you have. So, what we want to see is, your ability to analyze any issues that come up and make sound decisions and actually overcome those problems. And lastly, adaptability. So showing that you can actually be flexible by adapting to the different situations when they arise. So it's really important that you're able to kind of shift plans and adapt to new concepts in order for you to succeed as well.
Yeah. So, on top of all that, is having an online personal brand important? And do you check people's LinkedIn profiles when you're checking their CVs and applications?
Yeah, 100%. It's very important to have an online personal brand. To be honest, I actually got my role at Woolworths thanks to LinkedIn. So my current line manager at the time actually reached out to me on LinkedIn asking if I was interested in working at Woolworths. Now, if I didn't have an online personal brand, that probably wouldn't have happened and I wouldn't be working at Woolworths today. So I'm very grateful for that. And definitely we do check LinkedIn profiles as well, just to make sure that, we're able to have a look at, I guess, your qualifications or some of the extracurricular activities that you've done or anything like that. So we definitely do look at your LinkedIn profiles.
Sure. And which obviously you'd still need a strong CV and a strong kind of cover letter on top of all that. Are there any tips for students when they're going through that process of what to make sure they include in their resume and their cover letter?
On the resume or cover letter. So it's really important to, when you're applying for a specific role, to have a look at the criteria of the actual job and then tailor your resume to that specific job. If there's specific skills on the job ad, it's definitely important to highlight that on your resume and also in your cover letter, some experiences that you had that would actually match that too.
Lovely. And do you have a mentoring program within your organization?
Yeah, we do. So we have a mentoring program called Mentoring Moments. So it's a face-to-face volunteer mentoring opportunity with senior leaders for women in IT across our support offices in Norwest and Yonora. So they're buddied up with a partner who will meet with them on a monthly basis, sometimes more frequently, to talk about their challenges and wins, to seek advice and share knowledge. This program is actually run annually and was created because of the feedback from females within IT who wanted more development opportunities. And it has been a success in building personal brands and confidence for our team members. As well as that, we have an Elevate mentoring program. So over the 6-month period, female participants from IT and supply chain will be guided by the Inkling team in partnership with the mentors and line leaders to uncover and understand their strengths. The participants will have 3 career coaching sessions conducted by the Inkling team and attend 3 leadership workshops over this time. And their line leaders will also have the opportunity to attend a leadership alignment workshop over the October period as well.
Great. So it sounds like there's a pretty big investment in mentoring within the Woolworths Group, which is great. And it's good to hear, I guess, for students who are a little bit unsure or maybe a little bit scared of the professional workplace, that there's help within there. So that's great to hear. Thanks for that.
100%.
And just finally, what's one piece of advice you can leave our students with today?
Yeah, one piece of advice. I feel like it's really important to self-reflect on yourself. And just, I guess, do kind of a bit of a SWOT analysis on yourself and your skills and your qualifications. So, find out what your strengths are, some, I guess, weaknesses, how you can kind of turn those weaknesses into strengths, looking at opportunities for growth, personal development, and if there's any specific threats for you as well, and working on those and how you can actually mitigate those threats. I think those are kind of great ways to kind of just self-reflect and have a look at yourself, because I feel like we're always so busy doing things, but we just never get a chance to just stop and reflect on ourselves and look at kind of personal development. So that would be one of my top tips for students.
Great, appreciate that. That was fantastic. Thank you Fatima.
Thanks, KJ.
Okay, I will jump to TJ now.
Awesome.
Hi TJ, thanks for joining us again. Okay, again, I'll start off with the same kind of first question. If you can please give me a brief background into your professional career.
Yeah, awesome. And thank you for having me again. So I've actually spent my whole kind of professional corporate career at IBM. I actually started off as an intern. I guess for maybe context before that, I did my undergrad in psychology, and kind of did the thing that you would normally do when you kind of start uni and you go, oh my God, actually maybe this is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. I went on to do my master's in commerce and HR, and then at that point I was concerned that I didn't have any work experience, having been at uni for 4 or 5 years. So I stumbled upon an internship at IBM. It was a little bit of business, a little bit of HR, a little bit of finance, and I thought, this will do. This will be great for a year, and then it will get me off to a good start. And then I never left. So I rolled into the grad program. I've been around the business a little bit, working with the sales team, the finance team, then landed in HR and recruitment, to what I'm doing now, which is kind of a bit of a mix of everything, partly looking after our grad and intern programs, partly doing a little bit of recruitment, and partly talent attraction, social media, and this awesome kind of stuff too.
Oh, well, that's good. So you've touched a lot of places within the company. So I guess you know what type of talent to bring in. So you've got a good gem in you. That's good to hear. So what do you look for in an applicant during graduate applications? What's a few things that you kind of focus on?
Yeah, great question. I think specifically for us, a passion and an interest in technology. It can be, I guess, maybe some people think that, oh, I've done an arts degree or I've done a business degree, oh, how on earth can I fit into IBM? But there's lots of different ways that you can show that through your application. So even through kind of cover letters and talking about your passions and your interests, maybe you've read something interesting about the tech industry or what's happening at IBM or some news and that kind of stuff, talking about that. If you've done any other bits and pieces of, I don't know, participated in hackathons or case competitions, or maybe dabbled with, playing with some programming languages or chatbots or what have you in your spare time. All of that kind of stuff is really awesome, because it just shows that you're proactive, you're interested in what's happening in the industry. And that's, I guess, what we're looking for, kind of that interest and that passion, because even if you don't necessarily have the kind of tech skills that we're looking for, we can help you with that. It's more of the kind of interest, the enthusiasm, and the passion that we're looking for.
So I guess students with drive and students who can take initiative without you guys having to tell them, I guess. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, just a follow-up question from that. So how would a student network effectively within the company if they get that role?
Yeah, good question. I think maybe there's kind of two parts to that question. It's kind of, how do I network, first of all, and then networking effectively. I think how to network, I guess, is simply just putting yourself out there. So for kind of students, I say, absolutely, these are the types of events that you should be attending, because you can not only network, but learn more about the industries, learn more about people from organizations. But I guess the second part of the question is kind of networking effectively. And to that point, I would say kind of, I guess it goes back to what I was saying originally about, knowing what your passions are. So I think it's very easy to tell when somebody is, not interested in the conversation with you, or they're just kind of they're in person, but their mind's elsewhere. I think pick and choose kind of your conversations. And if you're wanting to network and you're kind of wanting to find a mentor or a buddy or to connect with somebody in the organization, pick that kind of one thing that you're passionate about, that you can kind of connect that conversation too. So, for us at IBM, I normally say, have a bit of a kind of Google within the organization, who's here, who works in a part of the business that you're really passionate about, and then spark the conversation from there. I think that's the best way to kind of have those organic conversations is start with what you're interested in.
That's a good answer. Thank you. Okay, so IBM offers free micro-credentials. What areas are covered and why should students consider completing a short course?
Yeah, awesome. We have an online platform called Skills Build. Basically, it is a nice website where you can go and have a look at micro-credentials, like you said. There's lots of bits and pieces on there, depending on what you're interested in. So there's kind of basic kind of working in a professional environment type skills. So there's courses on things like design thinking methodology, agile, working in a corporate environment. But there's also a couple of courses on more specific areas. So if you're passionate about AI, blockchain, cybersecurity, there's a couple of short courses that you can do on those there. I think, maybe selfishly, I always recommend that if you're interested in working for IBM or a tech role in the industry, those types of things are really awesome to proactively go out and do, because again, it shows that you're interested in the industry. And then I guess for me, if I'm looking at your CV from an IBM perspective and I can see IBM on your CV, that immediately stands out to me. So absolutely, if it's something that you're interested in, it just goes to show that you're a well-rounded professional. You've kind of done your degree, but you've also done this, and this on the side, and it just shows a little bit more about your personality and your interest.
That's good. Okay, so what are the base programming languages that are used at IBM?
Good question. I think it's interesting for grads, I guess, in that sometimes we will advertise particular languages that we're looking for, but I guess for the most part, if you have dabbled in bits and pieces, the learning curve is not as steep for anything else that we teach you. But I guess to answer your question, probably Python and Java are the two most languages that we probably look for most, as they're the most basic, I guess, or the most kind of standard. And then anything else, I guess we kind of expect that, there'll be a little bit of upskilling when you come on board, that we can kind of teach you the rest.
Sure. And and when it comes to kind of upskilling, do you guys like run classes or things like that? Or is it more so just side by side and working with your team?
A bit of a mix of both. So definitely lots of on the job kind of learning, shadowing people, pair programming for those more technical roles and things like that. But we also have, I guess, the equivalent of Skills Build internally for us at IBM that has lots and lots of online courses on there. And the idea is we actually have a challenge within the organization. It's called Think 40. The idea is that everybody in IBM achieves 40 hours of professional learning and development a year, just to keep you kind of connected with the industry, keep your skills update, keep you interested and keep you learning. So it's very much encouraged that whenever people have spare time, that they're going into the platform, picking up a course and starting to learn it. So I guess to come back to your original question, a little bit of both.
Okay, and just finally, many of our students are international. Can you provide some insight on how to boost their chances on securing work in Australia?
Great question. And it's a tough question too, because I know a lot of grad programs and a lot of companies will have certain restrictions. For a lot of the roles that we have at IBM, particularly in our consulting arm of the business, they definitely have some restrictions in terms of the clients that we interact with and things like that. I would just say, things like this, do your research, come to events like this, hear about other companies, have a look at what programs are happening. I know a lot of organizations are starting to introduce more specific programs to address, I guess, populations like international students that maybe don't necessarily have Australian citizenship or can only work a certain number of hours a week. So do some research. There's lots of programs popping up here and there. I guess on top of that, I'd also say that it's not the end of the world if you don't get into a grad program. There's plenty of other ways to enter organizations in terms of early professional roles, kind of tech re-entry pathways. There's plenty of other options. So please don't get disheartened, I guess, if you're not getting a grad role in a grad program, because there's lots of other ways to network and enter organizations, even if the grad program is not quite where you're at.
That's great. Thank you. Good, TJ. Okay, Shauna, I'm going to ask you some questions as well. Again, I'll start with if you can give us a brief background on your professional career.
So basically, I've only recently started my professional career, like this year. But beforehand, I spent a long time in uni doing different courses and trying to find what I really enjoy. And in the end, I was really happy about what I'm doing now, like data science. And this is actually where my passion lies. And then so far at work, I feel also really positive about the work. And I actually did an internship, which led to my current position. And then with me, I feel like with this session, what I can actually give our students is another perspective coming from a fresh graduate. And actually, I can also give you guys some hints about how I found jobs and things like that.
Okay. Well, as a former student, how did you find the adjustment between university life to industry?
So far, like, it's actually quite different, because with university, basically the hours is different, and with work we have a more strict hours. That's the first thing. And also other things are like, I feel like work is not what we think it is in many different aspects. For example, the work we're doing at industry is still quite different from what we learn at uni, although uni do build a good foundation for us. But there's a lot of aspects of the business aspects when we're doing work, especially because I'm doing consulting. So we're building products for clients, and business knowledge is a really important part, and communication. And another thing is, I actually feel like most people were nicer than what I thought, because I thought before I enter the corporate world, I thought everyone is quite serious and everyone's like wearing a suit, but people are actually more relaxed. And then if you just reach out to people asking for help, asking for their advice, most people are willing to give us time.
I guess especially when you're new, people realize that you're new and they'll give you that sort of time to help you adjust.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you did an internship with Deloitte. Were you doing the same role that you did when you were in your internship to what you're doing now?
I'm actually working for the same client.
Oh, the same client. Oh, okay. Nice.
So, I would, if possible, I would actually recommend people, like all the students, to try to find an internship program. Like, it's not just about you getting a return offer, but also what you can learn from the internship program. So with me, even in my internship, I had a career coach and a project coach. I actually had a daily meeting with my project coach just to track my progress, and he gave me a lot of good feedback. So what he did was, for example, I was initially trying to catch up with people in the company, like what most interns do. But then after a while, my coach actually told me, it's not just about you meeting people, but it's also about what you can get out of this chat. And that's how I started to think about, what I want and what I want people to know me for. And then he also teach me things like how I can pick myself to make people remember me. And that sort of a feedback system really helped. And really recommend people to do it.
Yeah. Well, I guess that goes back to what Fatima and TJ were also saying, where you need to do a little bit of research and show a little bit of initiative, and how to network effectively, of course. So that's great. Like, you were able to switch on to that quite early on and making your coffee catch-ups quite useful and working for you. So that's some great advice for our students, because it's quite a safe world at university for the most part, in terms of not knowing, you know, how industry is going to be and how it's going to adapt to. So I guess you just got to, you know, grab the bull by the horns and take the initiative and take that big step, because whether you like it or not, everyone has to do it, right? So it's yeah, having the confidence to go forward and get that role. That's great.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I actually also did a lot of LinkedIn catch up after my internship. So I was just reaching out to people from LinkedIn and just getting a better understanding of the industry. And there's also chances where people actually offer me opportunity for job as well.
So when you reached out, what type of kind of questions were you asking? Or was it more like, I'm interested in the company, I'm interested in the role that you're doing, or was it more of a friendlier?
Normally have a purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would, for example, and I also know people from like university programs.
Yeah.
So for example, if I go to a talk in a student club, and for example, if they invite people from Microsoft, and after that, I will reach out and I will say, yeah, that's the questions I have for you, and what kind of and what do you have any advice from me? And then after that, maybe after 2 or 3 months time, I will give them about update and then ask them for a follow up. And I feel like the follow up actually helps as well.
Again, showing your initiative and they actually think that, you know, you're taking it seriously. It's not just a one-off thing. So that's great.
Yeah.
Great advice. When you were at Monash, did you use like Career Connect, or did you speak to recruiters about how to apply for internships and jobs?
So I actually didn't, but I should. Yeah, so that's something I should actually do, because some of my friends actually tell me the CV, like, because Career Connect help with the CV, and CV is quite important. Also, just yesterday I was chatting to a senior consultant who's hiring graduates at the moment, and he was saying a lot of uni students don't have a proper CV, and people who have a proper CV actually stand out.
Yeah, I'm sure Fatima and TJ can attest to that. You know, spelling mistakes, grammatical errors will all be picked up, and it's not a good look, I'd imagine. So it's those little things, those attention to details, right, that will help get you over the line.
Yeah, and another thing is the interview skills, like STAR method, and those kind of things also cover in Career Connect.
Can you,
from what I know? Yeah.
Some students may not know what that method is. Do you mind explaining what the STAR method is for me?
Situation, task, answer, and result.
Yes.
Yeah, so basically when there's a question, that's the format you need to use. And also from yesterday's conversation, the guy was just telling me it was quite awkward with a lot of interviews. Just when they give student a question, they just turn awkward.
Yeah. So again, with Career Connect, guys, it's a service that all Monash students can use. They'll go through your CV, they'll practice interview questions with you, they'll you know, look through your application. So definitely use them, as well as you can still use them 1 year after you graduate as well. So you know, it's part of the package of being a Monash student. So definitely use those facilities. It'll only help you with your applications. So looking back, I guess, Shauna, is there anything, you kind of answered this question already, but is there anything else that you would do differently?
I think with university, it's an open environment, and there's a lot of opportunities that you just have to be proactive about. It's not like high school, like there's a structured program. And for things like student clubs and things like exchange program, that's the things I feel people really should join. For me, I didn't join in my undergrad, and I wanted to do it when I do postgrad, but then COVID hit. So that's a bit unfortunate, but with now, because things are starting to open up, I think, yeah, just trying to maximize the experience at uni, and yeah, also doing what you actually like to do as well.
Yeah. Well, that's, I guess, a question that I can maybe ask for TJ. So do you have the employees have the capability to perhaps move to a different state or a different country, but still working for IBM?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess pre-pandemic, we did quite a lot of travel, particularly our consultants will quite often maybe, fly over to Perth from Melbourne to work on projects and things like that. That's quite common. I mean, we're working in a new world at the moment where everything is a little bit hybrid. So I'm not sure that we'll have the same amount of travel that we will, but there's definitely precedence of, I guess, people kind of, being based in Melbourne, but kind of traveling to Sydney for a trip and then kind of staying an extra couple of days and working from the Sydney office. We've definitely had kind of transfers in between states and offices too. I guess this is the commonplace now at the moment where, we've all realized over the past couple of years that we can do a lot of things that we thought we had to do in person virtually. So absolutely, there's lots of flexibility in terms of location.
Great. Well, look, they're the kind of formal questions that I had for you guys, and you've absolutely smashed it out the park. So I really appreciate that. Were there any questions from anyone in the session at the moment that you wanted to ask? This will be a great time. You don't have to put it in the chat. You can take yourself off mute and ask if that's easier. Is there any, I guess, for TJ and Shauna, any kind of final remarks you'd like to leave our students with, or is there any information about perhaps the IBM graduate applications and things like that?
I can absolutely do a plug now if that's appropriate. We've currently got roles on our website for anybody that might be already graduated or graduating mid-year. So we've got some roles to start July 2022. So if that's something that you're interested in, we've got roles up online at the moment. We're looking for a mix of kind of business and technical, so consultants, project managers, developers, so a little bit of everything. And I guess if you have any other questions that you maybe don't want to ask today, you're more than welcome to find me on LinkedIn and reach out. I'm fairly sure I'm the only Tejan on LinkedIn, so it shouldn't be too difficult to find.
And Shauna, anything you'd like to leave our students with?
Yeah, I think one thing is, even with university, with the course you are doing, it is quite important to find the course you are happy with, because I did biomedicine as my background and I really didn't like it, but it took me so long to realize that's something I didn't like.
Yeah.
And yeah, after I changed my course, I just feel like, every day is so exciting for me. And that's also something I think a lot of uni students are experiencing as well. And also, even if you finish your degree, if you don't like your degree, you still have the opportunity to change your career pathway. Just be flexible and trying to pursue what you like and what you're passionate about.
Well, I guess you're definitely living proof that you can study one path the whole way and change at the 11th hour and still be amazing at what you do. So that's great. It doesn't look like there are any questions, but again, I want to take this time to thank yourself, Shauna, Tejan, and Fatima, who has unfortunately had to leave for another appointment. But thank you. There was a lot of pearls of wisdom today, and I hope our students will take that away with them, especially when it comes to graduate application time. Okay, no worries. Well, thank you guys.